News Magazine, and I am so excited to bring you another feature in our Changemaker series. And today I am talking to Mr. Isiah Davis. He is a systems thinker and social architect and the founder of Transitions Inc. And Isiah is committed to reshaping how human services are delivered, and he leads his companies with a clear vision to close gaps where others may see limits by leveraging strategy, technology, and lived experience. Now, Isiah creates pathways for sustainable transitions and impact. And as you know, here at Work Solutions, we are committed to supporting and championing individuals who are in this social impact space. So I'm going to quickly hand it over to Isiah to introduce himself further. And, we'll jump right into the conversation. Hi, Isiah. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And I think you covered everything, Dr. Taylor.
Really looking forward to this conversation. I really love to see people who are out in the community making a difference. And I think, oh my gosh, I think that people get so tired of me saying this over and over, but I have to say it every episode of this interview series that we record, is that the great thing about our Changemaker series is that most people, the coaches, the authors, the nonprofit founders, individuals like yourself that are coming through, all of this is lived experience. And so people are telling stories from the gut. Now, Isiah, you have described yourself as both an innovator and social architect. That's what I read in your bio, right? But let's talk about what first inspired you to really focus on creating lasting, meaningful change in a way that communities are served, especially in this human services space. I mean, you literally call your business Transitions Inc. So tell us a little bit about what inspired that story, and for you to even, you named it the obvious in terms of how you plan to help people. So what was that inspiration?
The inspiration behind transition, as you stated, it's in the name as far as what we do. What we wanted to do when it came to approaching the need, approaching people who are in their transition. We wanted to make our doors, when I was incorporating the idea, I wanted to open our doors and open up the company. So when we are posted up anywhere or when we are advertising and people will see transition, they'll simply see that's an organization that, as you stated, I mean, it says transition. We want to approach and catch people right in a transition, whether they're going through financial, whatever, life, whatever they are, wherever they're at, we want to meet them right there and just help them in that transition.
So you're very broad in this human service space, meaning that you support people with food services, financial services. Um, Tell us some of the particular services that your organization provides. And when we talk about transitions, which we're going to come back to that in a moment, because I want to have a brief discussion. I love how you called it transitions. It's not somewhere that they're staying, right? They're just in transition. But when you talk about this and transforming the human services space, what are some of the specific services that your organization provide? Because we did have a brief conversation prior to jumping on. And I know for a fact that you do things like supporting with food services, financial services. Like, if I were to come to you in my transition period, what can I expect? The type of help and services that you can provide in terms of your partnerships that you have.
Yes, one of the things that an individual or a business can expect when coming to us for service is, for one, you can expect to be treated with dignity. And for two, you can expect for us to generalize and analyze where you at. And after the analyzation becomes a plan, we call that internally a transitional plan. The transitional plan can consist of multiple alleyways depending on the individual. Now, because we are at the table with corporate entities and we're able to utilize our corporate partnerships for entities, we're able to meet that individual where they are after doing their transitional analysis, so we can figure out how can we help that individual transition. Now, if the individual was to need food, if the individual was to need clothes or etc., then what we would do is we would exercise the strategic partnership that's in place to allow that individual to have their needs met. Not only that, that's just the physical aspect of what someone needs. Let's talk about the spiritual and the mental aspect of what an individual may need that is included in their transitional plans when we first are meeting the individual just trying to figure out how they can transition. I mean, that comes with basically our network of people that we're connected with, that we're able to refer these people to and connect these people to. So they're getting a whole transition.
The
They're not
whole
just,
person.
yeah, they're getting a whole
The whole
transition.
person. You know, of the many jobs I have, including running this business, I also we talk about Dr. Taylor, we talk about I'm a health scientist.
Mm.
And to me, when you talk about addressing the needs of the whole individual, we're talking about the social determinants of health and all of those factors that impact the life of a person. I want to go back to something that you said because you talk about not just supporting that person with the food, the clothes, the finance, access to education, all those resources. When you talk about the transitional plan, but you also talk about the spiritual aspect of it. Now, you have faced opposition from what you call unhealed spirits while carrying out your mission, right? And how have you maintained grace and professionalism in the face of criticism and resistance? And the second part of that is, how do you leverage this? Because you are really focused on that whole person concept. And I'm sure that as you encounter these things, you use it to keep, as lessons learned to keep and continue to build your organization, to make your organization stronger.
Yes, when I am approached with those scenarios, and I am approached because bringing about change and serving the need, it's not just going to be a tea party. There's going to be, it's an industry. The need is a complete industry. And whenever there's industry, there's competition. And whenever there's competition, there's unhealed spirits. And there's ways to deal with those as such as approaching them and understanding what's going on, or the individual that may carry the unhealed spirit, or not even that, just the individual that just may have a opposition spirit. As far as many founders out there bringing about change and things, you run into people that they just may not like the change that you bring about. Sometimes you can bring about too much change. So one of the things with that is just knowing and staying grounded in why you started to do what you do. And that's the aspect of continuing to move with grace and bring about the change with grace, and don't get so caught up in the distractions.
I am so just listening to you thinking about. I mean, I know that this question was more so targeting the resistance that you might experience when you're trying to launch an initiative that's going to lead to major change in your community, right? And that's something that we all encounter. But I also want to look at the people that you're helping, because sometimes even with that, with all the things they've been through, and it's not necessarily their opposition to you because you're helping them, right? Some people may be resistant to help, but you encounter a lot. You might just, in the people that you help, because of all of the trauma that they have experienced, they might also be you know fall into this category of unhealed spirits. If I were to come to you with all of this trauma and I'm in this transition point, would I also be able to, as part of my plan, would I be able to have access to psychological and counseling services to help me? I mean, is that a part of your holistic support that you provide to people? Because it's like you said, it's not just about the clothing and the shelter, right? It's about healing souls in this space.
Well, yes, Dr. Christie, it sure is. And I want to just tell a brief story here. We recently launched an initiative called A Way to Housing, and we had a young lady. The young lady was 19 years old. Young lady was sleeping out in her car. And that the fact that you say is, have you ever run into people who actually clients who may be in their unhealed aspect? So this young lady had been sleeping in her car for over 6 months, and she had got put out of her apartment, and we were able to provide this young lady housing. And when she seen our brand of service and our style of service, she didn't know how to take it. She didn't know how to take, when we provided her one of the transportation vehicles so she can get back and forth to work. We provided her food, gas. We have awesome providers who are at the table who are opening up their doors in their homes, because some of our living spaces are donated spaces by our providers. And by her being 19-year-old, we wanted to put her with a provider who's a mother figure to the organization, and who is not only that, but is an example. And I've just been communicating with her back and forth while she's been in her transitional plans. And this young lady, she has been telling me how she have not been essentially loved and cared for in that manner. So yes, to 100%, I do run into that in our clientele phase of bringing in about change. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would encourage you, as you do this, is that it's not what you do in this transition is you really articulated it earlier, but it's really about healing souls, right? Because people are coming to you as part of their transition. Sometimes we because you already addressed the spiritual aspect, but sometimes that's the piece that sometimes in the social services space that folks are missing because let's get folks housing, let's get those, if you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those basic tenets met, right? But then we miss the piece about healing the soul. A person need counseling support. Sometimes people just need kindness. Just like you said, this young lady that, that you guys are showing all the support to, and you intentionally matched her with a partner who could serve as a kind of mother figure and mentor. And what she needed as a part of her healing process was kindness. So when we talk about you being a leader and reshaping how human services are delivered, I love the fact that you are in the business of holistically helping to heal souls. Now, your organization is built on a strong systems and forward thinking strategies approach, right? And so there had to be, when we talk about what inspired you, I did a little reading on you as I was looking through some of your stuff I saw with you, your interview with WORxK magazine. When you talk about your organization is being built on strong systems, forward thinking strategies, what gaps in human services did you see that really made you to realize that we have to take this new approach? It's not just about healing. It's not just about the tangible healing, right? It's about healing souls, right? Holistic approach.
The gaps that was identified in previously to approaching the year 2025, the gaps that we identified and what we wanted to attack, we spoke. It was three attack points. We spoke previously about one of them, and that was the love and the kindness. Sometimes when you're dealing with an individual, and let's go to the industry, it's something called caseload. We don't use the terminology here in our organization because we don't look at anyone as caseload. And sometimes when your caseload, you can be overlooked. So one of the approaches was the love and the kindness to it. Our second attack point was a simply to streamline process. We didn't want to have people waiting. There's times where people wait for so long for service that they turn around and they go and they commit to other remedies to be able, because you got to think people are reaching out because they need a need filled. And sometimes if you can't get them through your local channels or you can't get them through the local entities and businesses who are providing the service, sometimes they go out and they commit the crime. So we wanted to streamline the process so that not only we can assess the need and provide to the need as fast as we could, but we can assess the need and provide a need so that the people who are in need won't resort to other remedies. And that's basically bringing down crime rate and things like that. So streamlining it. And the third attack point that we wanted to assure coming in 2025 was we wanted to make sure that we are what I would say boosting efficiency. When you're dealing with people, you have to be efficient because when you're talking human service, you're talking about, well, when you're dealing with people, you're talking about real emotions. So the third thing we wanted to do was just make sure that we just boost efficiency when it came to our dealings with all of our clients. I wanted to analyze how previously the past year, how we was approaching the need and then get better at that, whether it was from our referrals or referring out, or whether it was just internally or from department to department. We just wanted to boost efficiency and be better.
I think you've done a wonderful job of articulating in terms of what will be the impact of I have worked in education, and I know there's something that we call from the classroom to the prison pipeline. Like in Florida, when I was there, basically we looked at test scores of third graders to say, okay, this is how you can predict low reading, low math test scores was a predictor of how many prison beds were needed. You just did an excellent job there, or re-emphasizing one. You taught me a lesson because as a career coach and resume writer, one of my favorite words to use is case management when I have folks coming in who are working in human services or even with nurses, right? And then you just kind of mentioned the other side to that, but then also you highlighted like people are coming to you to get help. They are coming to these systems and to access and utilize these services to get help. And so when they have to wait, that still leaves a gap, right? And just like you pointed out, it's like the gap is still there. And so the trickle down impact is they're gonna find some way to get it if they can't get it right now. And that's a lot of what we see, right? And it just takes me back to how I think about just working with young kids and the impact of why do we even have an estimator of the prison to the classroom to prison pipeline? How are we able to even predict that? Because those kids, they're not getting what they need. And so there is a trickle down effect to all of this when we don't have our social services processes set up the right way. So I really love that you guys are taking a look at how you're delivering those services and kind of um, reinventing how this approach to make sure that you can address folks' needs immediately because you really have a holistic understanding of that trickle down impact. Isaiah, now when we talk about streamlining processes, technology and automation, they really are playing a growing role in nearly every industry. And now we are living in the age of AI. I am, reforming and redoing things when I look at my own business and my own approach. How do you see technology and automation, because especially when you're talking about making sure that folks are getting the services that they need, right? How do you see that being used to better meet the needs of underserved communities in a more sustainable way?
Artificial intelligence will be one of the biggest things that hit the industry of need since the internet. The reason why I say that is because when you look at it on a holistic scale, one of the biggest problems in the nonprofit entity has been the spreading in what I will call equivalent budgets. There has never been enough budgets for the actual need. So what happens is these nonprofits, they get all of this work and they have these budgets that come down, but there's so busy paying people, there's not enough money for the actual work. Now, since they are what's called agentic agents, artificial intelligence agents, AI agents, there is now processes and things and agents that can be applied. So now all of those funds that was being sent to the employee budget can now be sent to the program expense budget so that we can now bring about some need, because there's no need for all these people. There's a need, but if you know how to utilize the automation correct, as we begin to adapt and as we have plans to further adapt to the automation, and as a CFO, we always, one of the things CFOs always want to look and see is how can a organization save while also maximizing impact. And with AI, it allows you to do as such if you're open and willing to accept it. Don't be on the other side of the ball when it comes to AI. You want to be on the side of the ball who is rolling with it. If not, then the way that the industry is shaping, you may get rolled over, or other entities will outperform you in
Mm-hmm.
the marketing side of things, in the media side of things. And again, those are revenue drivers for nonprofit entities. That's where you market, that's where you get your mission out. So if you have an entity who is adapted to AI and they're able to get their mission in more people's faces, that means more dollars.
Yeah, we very much embraced AI very early on. I've been running this company for almost 10 years, and when AI, and I remember back in 2016 saying, oh my gosh, I could streamline how I approach my training processes, record videos, and do things like that if I just had something that was automated, right? And when things like GPT and stuff first came on the scene, I even now, a couple of weeks ago, even created an avatar for myself because I can't
Wow.
do So like if you go on our YouTube page, my not for work global news, but for my the other half of my company, there's an avatar of myself talking, right? Because I can't always be present at every moment. So yes, AI is coming. I have I've been listening to things like urban intellectuals, that those groups, trying to get myself on boards, and being able to be part of seminars and things that can really help to develop those skills, because they do say by 2030, I mean, we're looking at 80% of white collar jobs, meaning if you were sitting in a desk working, a lot of that stuff is going to be streamlined to go. So the proper term we're going to use for this is AI is going to play a major role in workforce transformation. And what I'm going to say to y'all is, if you are like me, work a white collar job, you're sitting at a desk, you're running a business, you need to learn how to use this stuff, because the thing is to make yourself an asset, right? And to
Yeah.
make the skill that you have the asset, so that you can learn how to leverage AI to make things more efficient. So yes, can you just imagine, like, I'm looking for, I was doing this the other day, playing around on my own website, and we had added a little AI chat bot, right? So somebody come to your website and they're looking for human services, and they just type a question in, even something as simple as that. And you have a chat bot that's responsive to them, that can help them, that might pop up with a source. So it really is helping to streamline things, and that automation plays a part, because it doesn't replace human engagement, but it definitely streamlines the process, right?
Yes.
Man, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the next 5 years play out. So when we talk about working in this nonprofit sector, being on this side of social impact, I would encourage anybody, it seems like you already have, Isiah, who's on this side, to really embrace that. Great conversation. That's a whole nother topic that we can spend all day talking about.
Yeah.
Now, again, when we look at the way that this conversation has flowed, I think this is a good transition point here in the conversation, because you've already laid it out about redefining what case management looks like. And while you were talking, I mentioned social determinants of health earlier, right? All the things that have that trickle down effect, and there's 5 areas of social determinants of health which you address through your human services. Social determinants of health are those conditions in which people, they live, they grow, they work, how we age, their community, and your organization transitions is that. And I love what you say, transition, because we don't look at any of these situations as a permanent spot, right? You didn't say permanency. You called it Transitions Inc., which means that you are helping people to move through a system as a part of transitions. Now, Isiah, you have spoken about wanting to bring purity back to the industry of meeting needs. And I think that you touched on that. But what does that really mean to you, and how does it influence the way that you lead your organization?
What it means is going back and simply putting the people first. What it means is really going back to the core principles of why social service even came about. It came about because there are individuals who are simply just in positions that they can't help themselves. So socially, they need assistance. So we want to essentially bring that back and let that be a core leading value of why we do what we do. By keeping the people first, we're able to keep the people in the need met. Because if we're coming in and everyone that comes to the organization and everyone that logs in and they figure out what's going on, they figure out what they have to do for the day. If everyone has a selfish mindset and they're thinking about themselves, oh, I just got to come in and get my 5 hours, I just got to come in and get my 8 hours, then what good is the impact on the back end? If the people on the front end are not even thinking about the people on the back end, they're just coming in thinking about themselves. Let me just come in and get my 8 hours. We got the grant, so we was able to pay everybody, so let me just come in. No, one of the things that we're just being the pure core value is keeping people first. Because when you keep the people first, it means you're keeping the need first. And as long as you're thinking about the need is continuously being met. Because every single day in this industry, there's a new need to be met. So there's a new individual and there's a new business that needs help transitioning.
I love that. I want you to, because we've been so people focused, but I just heard you say business. So you support businesses too?
Yes, ma'am. Transition is a business that helps people and it helps businesses. There's been scenarios and times where we've been able to come in and business have been able to contract our personnel and we've been able to help that business transition to different levels. For example, a lot of people see our model. A lot of people see what we do. They see the people that are at the table with us and they see how we're able to take all of those aspects and bring about change in these different communities and county municipalities. So they want that. They want to be able to incorporate. They want to have a 501c of some type. I never say 501c3 or 501 because there's multiple 501c's. I try to get that out there when explaining to our clients because a lot of people don't know the in-depth industry because it's just a tax code.
So we never really tell a client that they're when they come to us and they're starting their nonprofit entity, because that's essentially what it is. It's the entity, and the individual will allow or elect to be taxed or tax exempt through the 501c3 series. It could be 501c3, C8, C9, multiple entities.
So you have two parts to this. One where you're helping the individual who to get those services that they need, and they're not a case, they're a person, right? And you're helping to heal the soul of the individual. But also as a business, if I want to come in and looking at the work that you do, if I want to launch a nonprofit myself, where I want to be able to work with some of the experts that you have within your organization, we can even partner with you to contract your services to help build out our own organization.
Yes, that's 100% correct. And that is the driving force and what allows us to do what we're able to do. And we always try to stress to entities and to all of the nonprofit founders and entities out there that's listening, always remember that the business is not the program. The program is essentially an expense, and there always have to be something that is generating money for the business. And that's just one of the things that we help other business to see. Now that we're just on the topic of other business, we really break down the industry and use all of the experience we have and our expertise in the industry to really give people a clear idea so that people don't set themselves up for failure, because we have all of this passion, we have all of this want to, but we don't have the how to. You have to know how to approach this, because eventually your own money is not going to be able to really bring about all of the change that you want. So there's going to have to be some type of foundation that's set, that's going to generate the business funds, because the program is expense. The program is not the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes is what are you guys doing to bring about change that the business is able to generate funds to recycle those funds to bring about more change.
I love that because those are some hard lessons I've even had to learn as a business owner myself. Especially, I think what ends up happening is those of us who are in this space where we want to be change makers, who want to be people of impact. And I've seen it 1,000 times with other folks that I've worked with. We get so caught up in trying to make sure that we're moving the change, and we forget that you have to be able to generate some funds for the business so that you can actually execute the change, right? And so that's a very powerful statement. And it really leads me to my next question, because you really are a systems thinker. And when you talk about, I feel like you've answered this question in what you just said. From a systems thinking perspective, understanding what you've seen in terms of helping individuals and helping to build businesses that are going to be impact. What do you believe are the most overlooked elements of building sustainable solutions?
The overlooked aspect of the industry is a clear foundation. We come in with no real clear foundation, just the idea. And the idea, there's a point where the idea has to be laid out and has to generate a foundation. So having that foundation in the beginning allows not only the founder and the board members, it allows everyone to approach whatever industry of need that you want to attack. It allows everybody to approach it with more clarity because we know what we're doing. We know where the money is going to be generated. We know where the money is going to be spent. We know where the money is going to be saved. Because as a CFO, it's not just about making the executory decisions on budgets and on projects and things that we're financially embarking on is going to take capital. It's really about more so seeing it from a holistic perspective. Now we're talking about the business itself. Now we're talking about seeing the foundation and knowing the foundation, working close with the board members and the program directives so everybody could know. So to answer your question, I just stand on foundation, but a clear foundation, not just coming in knowing, well, we have the program, we're going to get a grant. I mean, that that is, as I stated earlier, that's the fun part. The nitty gritty part to it is knowing what you're going to do and what are the actions that we're going to take.
We have throughout this interview, we've gone kind of like two different ways, right? On one hand is how we help the individual person. The other hand is how we help the business. But a couple things that stand out to me about the work that you do, it's all about streamlining, streamlining things, being efficient, the whole person or whole business concept when you talk about foundations. I'm going to just ask you a couple more questions before we wrap up. And one of those questions is, if I were a business and I wanted to partner with you, how would I go about that process?
So, anyone who would like our services, whether businesses or an individual, we encourage you to go to our website and just go to new in 25. It's going to change as 2026 comes in. It'll go to new in 26. It's always going to be what's new in that current year. But nevertheless, you can just scroll down and submit a service request. And our service requests, everything we do is streamlined. Our service requests are quite simple. It's just literally we want your first name, how we can contact you, and what can we do for you. So that's what we encourage all businesses and individuals to do if they would like to inquire about our service or just embark on any future collaboration.
And of course, I have to ask you about you, right? Because leadership, especially at your level, being the CFO and the visionary behind this company, it really requires balancing that big picture vision with day to day realities. Because you've talked about the day to day realities of dealing with this on also. So, how do you, as a change maker, stay grounded while you're still pushing for bold innovation?
I stay grounded by staying on myself. I want to shout out one of my high school coaches. His name was Coach Lofton. He is the head coach over at Fike High School now, coaching basketball. And he would always tell me, in all of these sports guys out there who may watch sports, when a cornerback has his eyes in the backfield looking at the quarterback, he's not looking at his defender in front of him. So one of the things Coach Lofton would always say was keep your eyes out of the backfield. That means keep your eyes off the quarterback. So that's what I do. I keep my eyes out of the backfield and I keep my eyes on the main thing, which is getting better. Not only as a CFO and an executive, it's as a person, it's as a decision maker, and ultimately it's as a family man, just getting better on all of that aspect and making sure that I am keeping my eyes and on what I need to keep it on. And not only that, staying focused and staying balanced and knowing that business isn't everything. And also you got to have some fun too. So just that whole mix and just going back to that analogy when I was playing sport And what I took away from that, from my previous coach, that really just allows me to really balance it all.
I love that because I think that we get so caught up in a discussion of how we're going to help others and the impact we want to be and the impact we want to have and the legacy that we want to build as change makers that we forget just the day to day. So I just love the fact that you're tapping into somebody who had a major influence on your life growing up, and you're still inspired that today, by today, and you even take a holistic approach to life because you're focused on getting better in every area. It's not just about you running a business, but your personal life, your family, and all the things that your fingers touch, right? That you have a hand in. Um, as we approach, this has really been a powerful interview because you've shared so much of what does it really mean to transition, right? Um, what advice would you give to emerging social impact entrepreneurs like yourself who want to create change, but they feel overwhelmed by systemic challenges?
I would tell everyone out there that you are only as big as the thoughts that you let limit you.
Mhm.
The reason why I would say that is because you're going to face so many distractions when you come about deciding to be a change maker and deciding to see that there's a problem and there's a solution to be attained due to that problem, because you see the solution and you see the problem, but there's individuals who may not see that there's a problem. So here you come along saying that there's a problem, and you're going to be met with adversity, as we spoke about earlier in the interview. And I would just say you're going to get those thoughts. You're going to get those thoughts, what we will call those imposter thoughts, dealing with those I'm not good enough, or should I be doing this, or it's just little old me. These are all the things that went into my head when I started years ago. But one of the things that I had to remember, and I want you guys out there to every single ear that's listening, I want you to remember that you are bigger than those limited thoughts. The need is bigger than those limited thoughts. When we was going into the initiative or way of housing, if I would have let the limitative thoughts stop me, then I would have never been able to hear the multiple testimonies along with that young lady who's been sleeping in a car for 6 months and couldn't even stretch out on a real bed until we was able to provide her a way to house. So you're always bigger than those limited thoughts.
And I love that advice. Wow, those are some really powerful words that you've shared because listen, when I relaunched my business as Work Solutions, and we decided, okay, I had a million things that I wanted to do. That includes everything from, we talk about building up people and building community. I had a million things, and I had to stop and focus on one. But I love how you said, like, you can really see the solution. But just because we as business owners are, folks are championing change, whether you're an activist, business owner, whatever it is that you're doing and being a change agent, just because you see the solution, that doesn't mean that everybody else is going to see it, right? And that comes to the obstacles that we talked about earlier. Now, this has really been a powerful interview. I know it's powerful because we've gone almost 40 minutes, and usually we go about 30, right? And so I want to talk to you about what you have coming up, Isiah. What is coming up with Transitions Inc. in the future? What can people expect from you guys? And we're going to include your information, of course, in the description box. But tell us where we can find you. What do you have coming up? What's going on?
So coming up, as you guys, everyone who's been previously followers of mine and followers of the organization, you all know we always try to keep things automated. So automation is definitely going to be on the forefront. We're definitely going to continue to figure out ways of how we can adapt to what's now, whether it's tech or whether it's the new way of legislation that have been put out that may affect whatever is now. We want to continue to figure out how we can continue to be the forerunners in the industry and continue to output a successful model so that other people who are aspiring or other co-industry entities can continue to build off of it and just collaborate and just really be a holistic part in the industry of need. But that's pretty much is going to be our continual goal, aside from keeping the people first.
And where can people find you? Your website, your information.
Yes, you always can find us on Facebook. Just go in Facebook, just type in transition.prg091. We're going to pop right on up. And also, you can just visit us on our website at www.transitionprg.org. And again, the website is fairly simple to navigate and it's very informational, and everything is right there. And again, if anyone ever gets stuck on any one of our platforms, including Facebook, we've got it organized so that there's an AI agent that's able to just ask those simple questions. You might not have a navigation question or anything. So don't feel when you are on our platforms that you have to navigate alone.
I love that. I love that. This conversation was more than just about. We talked about everything from the future of what delivering human services and streamlining the process is going to look like, and in terms of what even those of us who are in this change making space, that foundational need, focusing on that foundation, right? And even though you want to change the world, you got to build with something, and you have to be able to bring money into your organization, as well as how we help individuals. I mean, you really got me with that case management thing, right? Because it's like that is such a big word. Do you have any case management experience? That's the first thing I've always asked clients. Do you have any case management experience? But we cannot forget the human side of looking at individuals, not a case, but as an individual. And that story about the young lady and how you impacted her life, that is just one of many examples that I'm sure that you have. Isiah, it's really been a pleasure to interview you today. Looking forward to reading your article when it comes out on WORxK Global News, and we'll be sharing it on our platforms. You are the epitome of what we mean when we say change maker, impactor, somebody who's present and engaged in their community. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Christie, for your time. And I just want to thank Global News Magazine for having me.
Yeah, this has been an exciting interview. So again, be sure to tune in and to Isiah's interview. Check out our WORxK Global News. You can find us on across all major platforms: iTunes, Amazon, as well as YouTube. Check us out on Instagram, and we look forward to sharing this interview. Just another powerful, impactful interview through our Changemaker series. Have a wonderful night.